G'day everybody, how you going today? It is so good to see you. We've got some pretty massive things going on in the image making world at the moment. There's a lot happening and it's happening quickly. The latest, biggest news is this camera right here. This is the Sony A7 IV. But also we've got an amazing piece of equipment from DJI in the Ronin 4D, along with the latest teaser trailer from Nikon with the Z9. Plus, I want to round out this video by quickly talking about this here with a pretty interesting lens on the front of it. Let's get to that and more straight away. Okay, well, let's start this video with perhaps the biggest news for Sony in 2021. I know the Alpha 1 is an amazing camera, but it is a flagship and it's not for everybody. This camera here, in a way for me, is Sony's most important camera. It's the flagship, middle-of-the-road camera. And, well, there's been some pretty significant updates to it. And what I want to do is I want to go through the launch video and we'll talk through those specifications. And on the other side, I'll have a little bit of a chat about how and where I think it fits in the world. And here we are.
Alpha.
Beyond basic. For a new generation of image makers, the A7 IV. Country, birds, dog. Lady. I'm not sure why in that order. I wouldn't have put it in that order. And we start to see the camera with some changed ergonomics. It's now got a flip out screen, of course, and that dial right there, allowing you to switch between stills and video separately. Its own button. Thank you, Sony. Now we have a 33 megapixel sensor, which is around 7,000 pixels on the long edge. It sounds like it's a lot bigger than 24 megapixels, but it's not. It's only about 1,000 pixels with ISO of 50 to 200,000 and 15 stops of dynamic range. It's got two of the Bion's XR Sony processors, which helps it render skin tones perhaps better than ever before. 759 AF points with 94% of coverage. That's exactly as much as anybody would ever need, of course. Real-time AF humans, 30% improvement in detection accuracy. And real-time AF for animals. And real-time AF for birds. And here we have just real-time tracking in general. So keeping up with people in motion doing random things. And with up to 10 frames per second with AF and AE in both mechanical and silent, and uncompressed RAW and JPEG 828 images compressed RAW, more than 1,000. Movie. Let's have a look at the movie features. We've now got 10-bit 422 and the highly efficient XAVCHS. We're getting 4K from 7K oversampling, 4K 60p and FHD at 120p. S-Cinetone for cinematic look, and S-Log3 and S-Gamut3 with 15 plus stops of dynamic range, before and after. Also real-time IAF for humans, real-time IAF for animals, and real-time IAF for birds, also in video mode. And breathing compensation for consistent angle of view when focusing. Now this is a little tricky. Fixing a lens that breathes by doing it electronically. There are some caveats, as we can see down the bottom. Active mode optical image stabilization, and that is done in post. Hybrid still and movie. And thus we have a separate set of menus for both stills and video, and this is something that is absolutely exciting. It's a big advancement from my perspective and very much required. And buttons are separately customizable depending on whether you are in movie or stills mode. We have 5-axis in-body image stabilization, a 3.68 million dot viewfinder, and a 1 million dot LCD panel, and a heat dissipating structure for extended recording, which I believe is out of the A7S III. And let's talk about all of the communication. And for the first time, there's pairing, constant pairing between your phone and your camera. USB Type-C connector, and also you can now use it as a webcam. This is something that Nikon's been doing for a while. This is Sony A7 Mark IV. Well, there you go. You can see it's absolutely cram-packed with features. Is it a big jump on what it was? Well, in some ways it is, and in some ways it isn't. Some things change and some things remain the same. I suppose that's always the way it is. And it does sound like Sony has been listening to its users, and for example, one of my major gripes, which is moving the video, this is one of my Sony Alpha 7s, and moving the video control from this dial here to a separate dedicated dial. That to me is an absolutely massive advancement. And when it comes to real world use, as opposed to specifications, but real world use, when you actually just want to get things done, that was a massive problem for me, which by the look of it has now been addressed. So it's great to see that things like that are happening. Well, there we are. There is the Sony A7 IV. Big news for Sony. Coming in well priced at $2,500 US. I believe it's around 4,000 Australian dollars. So it's not exactly cheap. The Z6 II is coming in sub $2,000. So there is a 25% premium on top of that if you want to get yourself into an A7 IV. The A7 IV does have a few higher specifications. For example, that 33 megapixel sensor. Although again, in the real world, going from 24 to 33 is only giving you about 1,000 extra pixels on the long end, taking you from around 6,000 pixels to around just over 7,000 pixels. So it's not a massive difference, unlike the difference you see between, say, 24 megapixels and 45 or 50 megapixels. The Z6 II and the new Sony both have 4K 60, although the new Sony has far more going on internally, which I think is where we would hope to see the Nikons go next. As for where the Canon R6 fits in, well, it's got a lower megapixel count at 20 megapixels, which is extraordinarily interesting to me that Canon made that choice to come in at 20 megapixels at this time. We've all known that the Sony A7 IV was coming and coming soon, and it's been rumored for a long time that it would be 33 megapixels. Then the distance between those megapixel counts, it starts to become a little more marked. So it's an interesting mixture of things going on there between the Z6 II, the R6, and the Alpha 4. Which one's for you? Well, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be changing systems for any of them. They've all got their pros and cons, and in a lot of ways, and in a lot of ways that actually matter for everyday usage, they are very similar. Perhaps one of the biggest differences might be, if you're, say, a vlogger, is the lack of a flip-out screen on the Z6 II. Not enough to change systems, and that can be mitigated with certain workarounds. And at the end of the day, as I've said many times, you can just do this, and if you know how to shoot and you've got face detect on, which all cameras you do successfully these days, you can make it work anyway. Interesting to see this camera arrive. Absolutely a super duper important camera, and it's great to see that it's got the upgraded menus, the flip out screen, the higher resolution, and absolutely more advanced video features. Great work, Sony. Let's move on to DJI with the Ronin 4D. This was a camera that I talked about that was rumored a month or more ago. I have always been in love with Steadicams and what they can achieve. You can have someone running as fast as possible, doing the Tom Cruise style running, yet you still have a stable shot. Now we have a very compact looking device. It weighs around 4 kilos with everything on it, yet it is fully stabilized with this little arm that's floating out the front. This for me, in just purely video making, not anything to do with stills photography, this sounds to me like my absolutely dream camera. The fact that it's got a 35mm sensor, the fact that you can mount different lenses, it actually has a mount that you can change, and it includes Sony E-mount lenses and Leica lenses and obviously their own lenses, a whole bunch of compatible lenses, and I'm sure that list will grow. 35mm sensor, you can get it in 6K or 8K, and the reality is, I actually think it's ridiculously well priced. If I had unlimited budgets, I would absolutely get this camera tomorrow, just simply for the video making side of my business. What's so exciting about it for me is, you know, we can all grab one of these cameras or one of these cameras, it's a Sony, a Nikon, whatever it is, and we can pop it on a gimbal, do all the work to get these going and balanced and working and all that sort of stuff. But to me, again, it's back to barrier to entry. You just want to be able to get going and get working as quickly as possible. And this thing, pretty quickly out of the box, is up and running and stabilized and ready to go. Especially, I suppose, if you're using DJI's own lenses and everything's balanced for them. This makes, by the look of it, to me, basically super duper high quality filmmaking with extraordinarily gorgeous, smooth looking images. I think some of the Bourne Identity films need one of these cameras for the next one. Just as a little side note, I think they hid the fact that they weren't going to spend money on some of their action scenes by just making the camera fly around so much that you couldn't actually see what was going on. Anyway, they need one of these cameras. 8K it shoots, 75 frames per second. Certainly can be used for filmmaking, I'm sure. I am super excited about this camera. There's so much we could talk about. At the end of the day, I'm just a user, and from my perspective, this camera makes the business of creating beautiful imagery just easier and easier. And it does feel like a little bit of a game changer, a little bit of a paradigm shift in this particular space. Filmmaking. And filmmaking at a higher level. You know, this camera is more expensive than most of the mirrorless 35mm cameras that we talk about. It's significantly more expensive. I think the top of the range one is $10,000, where say a Z6 is $2,000 and an Alpha 7 IV is $2,500. So we're talking 4 or 5 times more expensive. Not in the same league. But if you're ever going to go into that space, and if you're, say, Red or Arri Alexa, I'd be going, well, this is interesting, but it will make the barrier to entry to this astonishing equipment just lower and lower. And hopefully that means we'll get more awesome stuff. Okay, let's quickly talk about the Z9. Yes, trailer 3 has dropped, and I think we are learning more and more about it. And not only has it dropped, and you can watch my analysis of that and you know where we're up to. This is looking like an amazing camera. Also has surfaced online an image of the front of the camera. I think it's looking fantastic. This is a leaked, unofficial image. At this point in time, look, I'm not comfortable myself in stealing what I think is Nikon's thunder in regards to the launch of what I think is the most important camera ever for them. So I'm not going to show you that picture. If you want to see it, you can go to Nikon Rumors, and that's awesome. But I want to leave it up to Nikon to release that image. But what this image shows us is not only is this a very good looking camera and it's beautifully designed, but it just looks ergonomically great and built like a tank, D5, D6, as we would expect from Nikon. I literally cannot wait to have one of these cameras in my hand just so I can understand how it feels, the weighting, the size of the grip around the hand, the way the ergonomics are laid out in a way that just makes it an extension of me. This is something I'm super excited about. And at the end of the day, I think that tactile experience is perhaps the difference between a camera that works for me and a camera that doesn't work for me. When we're seizing the moment, we don't want to be thinking about cameras. We don't want to be thinking about we're feeling uncomfortable. We don't want to be thinking about where are the buttons. That stuff's just got to melt away. So with every little extra piece of information that we see, and now we're seeing the front of the Z9, I think it does look like it really is the front of the Z9, because when we look at the video, the second teaser trailer, we can see the layout of buttons, the function buttons on the front, and this looks identical. So I think it's authentic, but I'll leave it to Nikon. I just can't wait. I can't wait to see it for real, and I can't wait to have it in hand. It looks absolutely magnificent. There we go. There's so much more happening on the Z9 front. I think everyone would assume that at this point in time that trailer number 4 will be dropping next week. And from what we're hearing again, in regards to rumours, also the official announcement will be next week on the 28th. Again, that's a rumour. Take it with a grain of salt. And finally, I want to show you this here. Oh, well, maybe I shouldn't. It's not out. Yeah, no, this. No, don't do that. Yeah, all right. Okay. This here, this is the 18 to 140 new, super zoom lens for the APS-C mount. The preview copy's arrived. I've already taken it out in the field. I'll have a video about that ASAP. And I just wanted to show you how cool it looks here on the ZFC in black. I mean, I think that looks pretty neat. Plus, I've also been experimenting with the small rig grip. I love this little small rig grip. It really makes holding the camera so much easier, and it makes it feel a hell of a lot like all the other cameras that have a grip. And it's integrated so well that it doesn't even look like it's not part of the camera. And I have to show you something super funky. They've put a cold shoe here on the bottom, and you can actually put your little Rode mic in there at the bottom, and you've still got the hot shoe at the top going, and you can still have the flip out screen going. If you want a sort of less expensive version of the Sony A7 IV, here it is right here. It's got a grip and it does a lot of the things that does. Of course, it's not full frame, but it's also like half the price. Thought I'd show that off to you. I look forward to showing you this lens. As I said, I have had a little bit of a sneak peek at it. The 27 to 210 range. It rocks. There it is. There it is with the small rig grip. Oh, how good does that look? Hey. All right, everybody. Well, I'm super pumped to have shared all that with you. Plus, can't wait to show off the 18 to 210 very, very soon. I might have a sneaky little recorded in one take thing coming up. Did anyone say scoot and shoot? What? Scoot and shoot? Yep. No, don't know what you're talking about. Find out soon. If this is your first time here, gosh, it's been good to see you, and I'd love to see you again. So please do subscribe and let me know if you have any questions or comments. You can pop down below. For example, are you going to be going for the Sony A7 IV? Or perhaps the Ronin 4D? I mean, nuts-o or what? Maybe you're the ZFC type of person, or maybe a Z9. Let me know in the comments below where you're up to. Please like, share, and don't forget channel memberships and merch. Click just below this video. There's the merch there. It takes you to a whole other sub-website, and you can customize things until your heart is content. Oh my lordy, and today, right now, our lockdown has been lifted, not completely, but a fair bit. We've now got like 100-kilometer radius that we can travel, and we can now leave our houses for any reason we want. We couldn't do that up until today. Isn't that crazy? It's been like 3 months. I'm smiling, the sun is out, and spring is here, and the Z9 is almost here, and the Sony Alpha is here. Is there anything to complain about? Nothing at all. I'll see you soon.